Welcome back. In our series on creative thinking, today we will look at principle number 3, shift the frame of reference. Most of the time we try to solve a problem from a particular dimension, and this particular dimension many a time is the most obvious way of solving the problem, but not necessarily the best. Sometimes a different way of solving the problem turns out to be more appropriate. Let us understand this with a couple of examples. Is there anything common in these pictures? Nothing, right? Well, in May 1998, India carried out her second nuclear bomb test explosion at the Pokhran test range in Rajasthan. Extreme secrecy had to be maintained prior to these tests. No one other than the team working on the project was supposed to know about the upcoming test explosions. Even other employees of DRDO, that is, the Defense Research and Development Organization, other than those on the project team, did not know about the developments. Pokhran was under America's strict satellite surveillance. Every vehicular movement in and out of the test range at Pokhran was being monitored by American satellites. Despite this, the Americans came to know about the test explosion only after the event, leaving their establishment red-faced. How did this happen? Dr. Abdul Kalam, in an interview later, mentioned how DRDO had given these roving satellites the slip. Many components of the bomb had to be carried from various places to Pokhran for final assembly. Since DRDO officials knew about the surveillance of the American satellites, they used donkeys to transport some components, camels to transport other components instead of the usual vehicles. The Americans, who were keeping a close watch on DRDO vehicles, never imagined that sophisticated components of the bomb would be carried into the test range on the backs of donkeys and camels. Thus, DRDO managed to keep the test a total secret till after the event by shifting the dimension from using regular vehicles to using donkeys and camels, which was totally unexpected. When the project team was thinking about how to beat American surveillance, the initial thoughts were about how to camouflage the vehicles. Many ideas were discussed, but no satisfactory solution emerged. However, when the team shifted their focus from camouflaging the vehicles to the core problem of transporting the components, the solution of using donkeys and camels naturally emerged. Donkeys and camels are common modes of carrying loads in Rajasthan. Let me tell you a story from my own personal experience. I have been an entrepreneur for the first 16 years of my professional career till about 2006. We used to manufacture various equipments that were used to automate assembly lines. One of our customers was Tata Motors from Pune back then. They were expanding their production line for the manufacture of the car Indica. And this is a story around 1999. One fine day, somewhere around the evening at about 4:30 or 5 p.m., I got a call from one of their executives saying, "Please come to our factory tomorrow in Pune. Our production director would want to meet you around 10:30. So please try to reach by 10 o'clock and then we will proceed with that meeting." Me and my colleague decided that we will take a bus to go to Pune. The bus started at about 11 o'clock from Dadar TT, one of the central junctions in Bombay. And mind you, we had booked the tickets at the last moment. So we invariably got the tickets which were towards the end of the bus. That is, suppose this is the bus, then there are these 4 or 5 seats at the back. We got these seats and we boarded the bus. The journey began. There were 2 couples sitting here just in front of us in these 4 seats. I don't remember their names. So for simplicity's sake, let us say H1 stands for husband 1, W1 stands for wife 1, H2 stands for husband 2, and W2 stands for wife 2. This was the configuration of the seating at that time. And you know, these private bus operators, they keep on waiting from point to point, picking up passengers, waiting 15-20 minutes at each of these intervals. So after about 2 or 3 stops, typically at Sion, New Bombay, etc., it was about 1:15 in the night. At that time, the real journey to Pune began. And back then also, our famous roads had numerous potholes. And on one such pothole, we just heard a sound of metal cracking inside the bus. What had happened was that this seat had begun to crack here on that pothole. So what was happening was this seat was kind of falling backward and was pressing against the knees of H2. So there was a problem there. So both of them got up and tried to fix that seat. This lady, W2, was actually wearing a dupatta on her dress. And H2 asked her, "Can I use the dupatta?" And what they did was, you know, there is a luggage rack over the seats. Somehow they kind of tied that dupatta around the luggage rack and fastened the seat and tightened it. Now, and H2 told H1, "Boss, now please do not lean back on your seat. Sit straight." But you know, at night, it's really difficult for somebody to sit straight. So he must have kind of started leaning backward on the seat. And gradually, this dupatta made out of silk or chiffon is generally slippery. And that whole knot just slipped off. And this seat came crashing down on H2's knees. Now there was some more commotion. But still, they were trying to solve that problem and find a solution. Mind you, now the seat was in 2 pieces. The backrest and the seat separate. This person, H1, was carrying a smart, sleek briefcase. What they did was they inserted that briefcase in here, and somehow there was a wedge kind of an effect, and the 2 pieces of the seat held their places. Right? But remember, the briefcase is never flat. It is generally convex in nature on both the surfaces, which is here. So what happened after some time was that on this convexity, this bag started slipping out, and that seat was totally into 2 pieces and just fell onto H2's knees. This H2 started shouting at the top of his voice to H1, saying that, "I told you sit straight, do not bend backward, etc., etc., etc. Do not lean on the seat." But you know, you can't really sit straight at that time of the night. So now there was a big problem. And in that fight that was ensuing between H2 and H1, their wives also jumped into the fray, and all 4 of them started shouting at the top of their voices. And mind you, this is all happening at 1:30 in the night. For about 10 to 15 minutes, this commotion continued. And everybody in the bus was totally disturbed. Not being able to sleep at 1:30, 1:45 was a big problem. Somebody from the front row shouted at the top of his voice, "Please let us sleep, keep quiet and please let us sleep." Now, 2 of us, me and my friend who was sitting here on these seats, my friend was watching the fun quietly. Obviously, I too was watching the fun. The moment he heard somebody shouting that we want to sleep, the moment he heard the word sleep, he got up and went into that conversation, rather the argument, and tried to kind of, separate the 4 out so that they could listen to some sense. After about a minute or 2 of trying to intervene, he made himself heard. He asked W1, "Ma'am, why don't you shift here?" He asked H1, "Sir, why don't you shift here?" He asked H2, "Sir, why don't you shift here?" And he asked W2, "Madam, why don't you sit here?" So the final configuration now was something like this. H1, H2, W2 and W1. And then he asked W1, "Madam, can I just take this backrest out and you can sleep on your husband's lap?" Now, don't you think the problem got solved there itself? Because earlier, when they were trying to repair the seat, there was conflict. But when the problem got redefined from trying to repair the seat to wanting to have some sleep, the solution just came out. H1 was absolutely thrilled to have his wife on his lap. H2 had no problem because his wife was sitting next to another lady. So now, don't you think this was a total win-win situation? Till the time, I repeat, till the time that the four of them were trying to solve the problem, which was repairing the seat, there was conflict. But the moment the problem was redefined from trying to repair the seat to trying to find some sleep, this totally win-win situation or win-win solution emerged very logically. So what do we learn from these examples? In both the examples, you would have noticed that solutions emerged when the conventional dimension of problem solving was sidelined and a fresh approach was explored. In preparation of the Pokhran test, all attention was on regular DRDO vehicles. Till the focus remained on camouflaging the vehicles, there was not much headway. However, when the focus shifted to the core problem of transporting the components, the solution emerged. When you're trying to solve a problem, ask the following questions. What is the problem that you're trying to solve? Are there any other parameters involved in the problem? What else comes to your mind when you think about these issues? And how can these thoughts be made real?